Hi, everyone. This is Rick Levine from the NAUMD. I'm going to share this, which will be the ad and our shameless plug, where we will start for the North American Association of Uniform Manufacturers and Distributors, commonly known as the NAUMD. We are an old organization that's been around since 1930. We have several publications that go out with for uniform news. You can opt into our free Tuesday publication called The Pulse at naumd.com/subscribe. We're starting to produce more industry data related reports. And of course, the most beautiful part about the association is the network access, is the ability to reach out to other members, to attend our annual trade show and meet with other executives, C-level people, and influencers within the uniform industry. And that show got pushed back, like many associations did, to October 24 to 26 this year. It's at Paradise Point in San Diego. So we appreciate any folks on the East Coast that come make the trip out. Starting then in 2022, we will go back to our May dates. So that is a little bit about the NAUMD. We're producing these webinars now twice a month, the first and the third Thursdays of each month. And we could not be more delighted to have EXENTA come to present for us today, and bringing their trusted partner and customer, Carhartt, with them. And that is just wonderful. And I'm so thankful to have them here today to support the NAUMD and educate us all a little bit more about what happens on shop floors. And if I've said it wrong, I apologize, and I will be corrected in the webinar. I'd like to introduce Alexis Baruch, who is a VP at EXENTA, and who will organize us today, introduce other people on the panel. And Alexa, without further ado, I give the floor to you.
Thank you, Rick. And before we get started, Rick, I need to ask you to let me share my screen.
I'm so sorry.
No worries, no worries.
Okay, you're good to go.
So thank you again, Rick, and thank you everyone for joining Carhartt and EXENTA today for overall innovation, how Carhartt achieved double-digit productivity gains with the shop floor control MES solution. Joining us today are our presenters, Katrina Augusti, who is Vice President of Solutions Delivery for Carhartt, and Justin Hersheran, Director of Shopfloor REVO at EXENTA. As Carhartt's Vice President of Solutions Delivery, Katrina is responsible for development of the IT application roadmap to enable Carhartt's corporate strategies. Katrina plays a key role in identification and delivery of new business processes and solutions, which will enable business functions and drive value. In her 18-year tenure at Carhartt, Katrina has spent over a decade in progressive business transformation management. And in 2019, she was recognized as a rising star on CIO Magazine's Ones to Watch in IT. As EXENTA's Director of Shopfloor REVO, Justin uses his extensive background in information technology and design to work side by side with development to bring new ideas to better support customer results. By driving a creative process in the growth of the Shopfloor REVO suite, Justin has expanded the system's value and functionality with features that support incentive pay, third-party manufacturing, seasonal planning and scheduling, and more. And just a brief look at our agenda for today. We're going to dive a little bit into the history of Carhartt and its legacy of innovation. We're going to frame the business problem that Carhartt faced. We're going to look into the requirements that they anticipated would solve these business problems. Then we're going to explore how EXENTA Shopfloor REVO was identified as the solution. We're going to walk through the implementation process just generally and also specifically for Carhartt. And then we're going to dive into the outcomes and results experienced by Carhartt as a result of the implementation of EXENTA Shopfloor REVO. We're going to briefly review the additional system features that might be of interest, and then talk a little bit about Carhartt company gear, some wonderful offerings for companies. And then we'll take some time for questions and wrap up. So thank you for joining us. And with that, I will turn it over to Katrina to share a little bit about Carhartt.
Fantastic. Thanks, Alexis. Great to be here. So just to give you guys a little bit of background, I'm not sure who's familiar with Carhartt as a brand, but Carhartt was founded back in 1889 by Hamilton Carhartt. The business is still family owned today, and it was founded on the principle of an honest value for an honest dollar. So the Hamilton really felt strongly that what he delivered to his consumer would be the best value and be really founded in quality. So quality is a very strong pillar of Carhartt, and also just the overall operational excellence that we build through our product and our processes. So fast forward 132 years. And Carhartt looks very different today, but is still really rooted in our core values. So today we have over, several different product offerings that span year-round functionality, very technical and innovative type of fabric platforms, high durability, high quality. And even though we started in the wholesale space, as a brand, we've really evolved and we meet our consumer where they are. So since then, several business channels have emerged. One being our direct to consumer, which is our Carhartt.com and our 32 Carhartt owned retail stores, but also Carhartt company gear, which you'll see spotlighted later today, which is really focused on that business to business or the ASI distributor type of model. So looking forward to continued growth. We are definitely on a track, and you'll see here as we go through the presentation why EXENTA was so core to help support that growth as we continue to scale our manufacturing and grow the brand overall.
Thanks, Katrina.
And this is Justin with EXENTA. And, if you look at the industry in general, especially soft goods manufacturing, they have been one of the last industries to adapt to new technology. So you could still walk in many factories and find sewing machines that could be, 30, 40, 50 or more years old, and little technology in the plants. As a matter of fact, probably 70, 80% of plants that are manufacturing soft goods have no technology on the production floor as far as like capturing production or visualizing data or statistics up on screens, or any of the motivational tools or automated incentive pay tools. But I think that this is obviously one of the areas that Carhartt excels in staying on top of being an industry leader, especially when it comes to technology. Looking at especially our current environment, we see that EXENTA shop floor technology has really helped companies excel, especially in difficult environments like what we see today. Adapting to new products, switching. Of course, as the pandemic started, we saw many manufacturers have to switch very quickly to making things like PPE, and having technology in place like EXENTA shop floor really helps a company to better organize that and stay on top of transitions like that. And now we're seeing even more of that, in relation to, supply chain issues and companies having to, juggle and switch, things about their manufacturing to be able to deliver products like reshoring or bringing production back closer to America. And once again, being able to stay on top of your manufacturing is key. And there's really no other way to do it except with technology.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Justin. And, obviously that's one of the reasons why Carhartt started to evaluate the solutions specifically in the supply chain area as it relates to manufacturing. The speed in which we had to catch up to our growth and just the ability to your point, pivot, shift, react to the growth, react to the constraints that were being introduced into the environment. We needed to have that technology to enable those processes so that we could move. So one of the things, this is a slide to talk a little bit about some of the key pain points we were addressing. So we did have a solution prior to EXENTA. However, it was a very old technology platform. So the first thing we were really trying to, first key pain point was batch system. So believe it or not, even though we're in 2021, our solutions were still very much batch driven on our shop floor. So we would have a day lag in all of the information. So you'd go through the whole day, they would do, attach the gum sheets, we'd go scan the gum sheets, and that's when we would see the actual movement of WIP. Second is just the technology platform itself. As you can imagine, given the growth and scale and the diversity of the brand and the products and business units that we have to support, we really needed to look at low maintenance, low support types of solutions for our IT group. So not having to, every time we wanted a pay code added, have to call the vendor and say, hey, we have a pay code. So you can imagine the amount of backlog that would build and the lack of velocity we would have to react to business needs. Third, we really had a manual process. As I mentioned, we had manual gum sheets, right? So they were talking thousands of gum sheets per day that would have to be scanned coupon by coupon to actually generate the payroll position. So our source to gross payroll, if you will. So having to shuffle those papers around and really not having good visibility and non-value added type of tasks, right? So having someone sit there and scan page after page is not really adding a lot of value to the process. And finally, what we lacked is just general visibility at the aggregate level. So the previous solution was individualized in the database and data and application. So each plant would have visibility to their day-old data, but we had no zoom out type of view so that our supply chain leadership, either at the manufacturing level or in the supply chain, if someone wanted to just say, hey, what's going on in the shop floor today, we would have no real way of aggregating that information and looking across our overall facilities and seeing how we were tracking to plan. So those are really the key drivers that we were trying to solve for as we went to market to look for the best solution for Carhartt. So kind of the converse of that is what were we really trying to achieve? Ultimately, the real-time visibility. So the project actually ended up getting a synonymous term of people just calling the project real time because they were so excited about just getting information at their fingertips at the actual workstation. So we weren't lagging a day. We could immediately see that information, not only at a operator level, but at a production supervisor level, and then of course within our supply chain leadership. Obviously, we were really looking forward to reducing those manual tasks. So how can we automate? How can we automate the process of collection and the process of processing the individual information? So it's really about removing those non-value added tasks and automating as much as possible using the technology to drive that. We were really looking for something. At that point, there was a big focus on the associate experience. So how can we, at 2,500 operator workstations, make their jobs easier? So the beautiful thing about EXENTA is that the solutions are very much, we've decided to deploy on tablets that are very similar to smartphones. So we were looking for things that are easily adaptable, very intuitive, so that you could just pick it up and go, and it wasn't disruptive to the workflow overall. And then, of course, just support for multilingual, multi-currency, those types of things, because we are deploying also in the US and in Mexico. And then lastly, just the IT burden. Again, as I mentioned earlier, we're looking for a self-service type of model where IT did not have to engage to do general administration or configuration changes. So as we needed to pivot or add pay codes or maybe a new training curve or something like that, it wasn't a big project. It was, hey, this is a configuration that we could easily execute and continue to move the business forward.
Thank you.
And then, you know, it's funny because looking back at when we first started meeting with Carhartt, the fit felt very natural, you know, and I remember, you know, meeting with you guys and, you know, being surrounded by, I think we had counted 300 or 400 years of experience with the Carhartt team. You know, so this is obviously a solution that was very well thought out, and the relationship as well, you know, and looking at our technology, everything was built from the ground up. Everything is new and fresh, built for Android. So it's off-the-shelf technology. It allowed, you know, Carhartt to basically source their tablets from anywhere they want. Could have been Walmart, you know, or Amazon. Literally, you could walk into your local Walmart, you know, pick up a tablet if you needed one that way. You know, there's so many facets of the technology that are built into the device that we were able to use and deliver as a solid solution to them. Like, for example, not just quality auditing, but quality auditing with pictures. You know, so when an operator sees that they get something back with a fault, they don't just have to read a word that represents the fault, but they can see a picture that tells them where that fault is. Viewing documents, so full document delivery. Anything from tech packs to, you know, instructional videos, automatically delivered, you know, based on what that operator is working on. You know, support for the cutting room and for knitting, being able to transpose, you know, weights and lengths into units. TV support for motivational tools, which I know Carhartt uses quite a bit, to be able to show people on the floor, how are we doing, just with a glance, you know, without having to like read into things, or, you know, whiteboard replacements. You know, whip tracking, knowing where your whip is in real time, anytime, you know, just from, you know, simply opening up a web browser screen or having your reports delivered to your inbox, uptime and downtime of your machines, support for any language, you know, local or SaaS, so the ability to have your server in the plant or have your server out in the cloud, or have a server like in a data center that serves all of your plants just from one server. Real-time alerts to help maintenance to, you know, get to the problems quickly and efficiently. So our alerts are delivered by text message or by email. And of course, integrating bill of material into your production. And then when it comes to implementation, I think that this was a, you know, key experience that Carhartt was concerned about, just as most companies are. You know, how complicated is it going to be to roll a product out like this, especially to hundreds or thousands of operators? You know, and in this case, the way that our technology works, it's very simple. You literally unbox a tablet, download the app, scan 2 QR codes, and you're up and running. And there's nothing else. So that makes it possible for, you know, a supervisor to roll out the tablets, or maintenance, or even operators.
Yeah, Justin, great. So we, you know, obviously you hit on a few things I just wanted to call out. First, the partnership, right? We are very relationship and partnership driven at Carhartt. We treat all of our quote unquote vendors as strategic partners and people that we want to be in business with and develop those relationships and co-innovate. So it was very important that we felt the rapport and the good working relationship from the start. That's one of the key things that we look at as we evaluate suppliers. You had mentioned the ease of implementation. Again, the technology stack is perfect for ease of deployment. And in most like most projects, your bigger challenge is the change management versus the actual technology. So the good news there is that we didn't have any roadblocks around the rollout, even though, you know, it was expansive. It was just adjusting and fine tuning the process and those types of things. So love that you called that out as far as the ease of implementation. We also decided to ease into it to kind of work through the kinks, right? So we chose certain lines that we would deploy into. We would get those lines working the way that we want, and then we would move to the next line, and maybe it had a little bit different of a nuance. Maybe it had an auto pocket machine, or maybe it had something different that was in the configuration of the line. So we were able to very easily kind of progress through that. And I was really surprised that by the 5th or 6th line, we were already starting to see some of that value come out. So overall, the partnership was fantastic during implementation. We had, you know, obviously, like projects, right, is, oh, can we tweak this? Can you help us here? And EXENTA was a great partner through all those, but we had very little need, because it is highly customized, excuse me. The administration of it is very configurable, so you don't have to engage much to do actual changes. So as part of the implementation and change management, we did make this little video that I would like to share with you to just give you an idea of what this looks like on the shop floor, but also hear from some of our associates that have interacted with solution.
De ir a checar tarjeta, de ir a buscar un cupón, de ir a que te firmen tiempos. Ahora ahí mismo lo vas autorizando y eso te hace ganar más tiempo y producir más.
Desde el momento en que nosotros nos falta material, se descompone la máquina o junta, lo que sea, todo lo podemos hacer ahí mismo. El supervisor le llega la notificación y ya va y nos pregunta, entonces es menos tiempo que se pierde.
Facilita muchísimo el trabajo, nos libera de tiempo. Cada operador tiene su cuenta de usuario. Entra, pasa su gafet en la tablet y ya se ve de inmediato quién está conectado.
Solamente escaneas el cupón y ya trabajas conforme al bulto que vas haciendo. La tablet tiene una cuenta regresiva y tú vas viendo lo que te tardas en tus bultos.
Y hasta lo que va ganando uno en ese instante.
Es mucha la diferencia de lo que producían tiempo atrás y ahora con el sistema.
Y si te atrasas, por ejemplo, ves que te quedan 5 piezas y 5 minutos, pues tienes que agarrar y hacer una pieza cada una en 1 minuto para hacer tu 100%.
Ya no necesitamos tener a alguien detrás de nosotros para que nos vaya diciendo cuánto estamos produciendo o algo.
Y así en la tablet rápido te da el reporte.
Básicamente, pues es como estar manejando un celular.
Sí, es muy fácil, no tiene nada de complicado.
A mí personalmente me ha ayudado a subir mi eficiencia y a ganar más dinero. Pues obviamente a todos nos puede servir.
Pues bienvenido, todo lo que sea para mejorar. Está muy bien porque tanto es rendimiento para la empresa como para nosotros mismos también.
Mientras cooperemos con el sistema, a todos nos va a ayudar porque a nosotros nos ha ayudado.
Perfect. Thanks, Alexis. So I hope that gives you a little bit of an idea of how that translates to the actual floor, not just us talking heads up here, but real words from the end users there, and just couldn't be more proud of the work that team has done, and really the great impact it's not only had on Carhartt, but the associates.
So it sounds like through EXENTA Shopfloor, Carhartt was able to achieve its objectives.
Absolutely.
That's great.
So real-time data, Justin.
So just some examples of some of the real-time data. This is an example of a screen that you would see like up on a large screen TV, where somebody can easily just glance and see, you know, how is production? Are we falling behind? Are we, you know, leaping ahead? But just real actionable data that you can just see with a simple glance.
Yeah, and just perfect. We had actually deployed, and I think you might have seen it in the video itself, is large TVs in the production areas. So by sewing line, the production supervisor, to your point, at a glance can take a look up and see overall kind of how that line is tracking to the overall plan for the day.
And actually, if you look at, taking that information, a supervisor walks by and sees something that's not right, you can very easily open up a screen and look at, where's production? How do the operations look? What is the projection of our operations? How many pieces are we going to produce each day? And if we have a bottleneck, how easy is it to move people around? And in this example that you see up on the screen, it's just a matter of clicking on one button and the system will tell you what that operator can do, what other jobs, or if you need more operators in this area, it will also tell you what other operators can do this job.
Yeah, and Justin, this was one of the key benefits we saw as far as trying to eliminate bottlenecks, right? Because you had heard in the video where they said it's not a supervisor standing behind an individual operator at that point, right? They can see the operation from their work center and be able to identify the bottleneck, quickly address it, and then look to solve those issues permanently, or know at least, okay, maybe I'm having a machine delay because I have an issue, and be able to quickly address that.
And then when you look at visibility, just the simple ability to not just see actionable information on a screen of, what does production look like on a plant by plant level, but to see it as an overall company and be able to drill down to each plant, see where you have issues that may be cropping up, or, deadlines that aren't being met, for example.
Absolutely, yeah, and I don't know, I'm sure like most, our company is really trying to move toward more data-driven decision-making and just having visibility overall. So as we have that data at our fingertips and are able to evaluate the metrics against the actuals, we're able to quickly see where we are, to your point, performing to plan or performing above plan or below plan, vice versa. So we're able to quickly use that information to act. So insight to action. And also, we're also seeing that a lot of people outside of manufacturing, so maybe supply chain leadership or finance leadership, other folks that want to see this data in an aggregate way. So the visibility of data, not just within the shop floor, but within supply chain leadership and other cross-functional teams, has been priceless.
That's great.
So I did want to talk a little bit about kind of what Carhartt achieved overall. So when we first set out to implement the shop floor solution, we set a goal of about 8 to 10% efficiency gain overall in our manufacturing facilities. And right now we're sitting at 13%. So we have overachieved in the efficiency gain. And why this is important to Carhartt is we are seeing tremendous growth that we are struggling to keep up with. So every extra unit matters. So being able to really drive the efficiencies and the additional production out of our sewing lines is super critical. So we continue to look for ways to drive that operational excellence, and are hoping to even achieve above this 13% as we continue to become experts in running EXENTA.
That's great. We see this from many of our customers, and we're very conservative in the sales process of how we sell as far as efficiency gains or projected efficiency gains. And many of our customers even then still think that, oh, well, you know what, we're going to base this project on a lower number. And it's great because they come back with stories like this, that they have achieved and exceeded those numbers as well. And of course, efficiency gains equal more product, which today that's key.
Absolutely.
So, in addition to everything else in real-time production, of course, is the fully automated incentive pay. So, with every scan, every clock in, every action that's performed on the tablet, everything is related to pay and incentive pay. So at the end of the day, it is, literally just pressing a button to be able to get your pay numbers out to payroll to be able to pay the employees.
Yeah, and Justin, for those, hopefully the folks on this call can relate, because most people don't understand the complexities of these types of payroll models and payroll calculations. So it's not just your typical hourly pay structure. You have training curves and declining bonuses and pay codes and on standard and off standard, and of course all of your bill of labor and so on and so forth. So the complexity can't be understated. So it's great that EXENTA provides the flexibility and engine in which to manage in that complex environment, because payroll shouldn't have to be that hard, right? but we also want the flexibility to be able to adjust as new things come on. And as I see it from a panelist, they can't hear. Alexis, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
I can.
Okay. So being able to adjust to those pay calculation complexities, and also having the velocity. So if our business users come to us and say, we have a new pay concept, how quickly can we bring this into the line? It's much easier now with EXENTA to be able to accommodate those types of ad hoc requests to bring a new pay concept into the fold. And then finally, just being able to move. I think you had mentioned it, Justin, right? So having that ability to swap people around, and depending on what operation they are working on, could change the pay concept. So yeah,
not only per operation, but it could be, if they change sizes from an XL to a 3XL.
You got it. You got it. So being able to quickly move through that and have that velocity is super critical for us.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I'd imagine that probably speaks to many companies out there, especially because of how complicated incentive pay can be.
Yes.
And of course, with that, usually this results in happy associates. And we see this many times where, Shopfloor, EXENTA Shopfloor is great for the companies that implement it. But it's just as great for the associates and the operators, because instead of having the worry of, are they being paid correctly? Are they getting credit for everything, and making their notes in their notebooks? Everything is on screen. They can see it as they produce it. There's no question as to whether or not they're going to get credit for what they did, and that really results in happy associates. Plus, many associates actually end up seeing pay boosts because tools like this help them increase efficiency. Increase in efficiency usually equals increase in pay.
You got it. Yeah, and we did definitely see that. I think there was a little bit of a culture shock to have that much transparency, but what we found was the associates embraced it. And to your point, we're able to see the immediate feedback on the overall efficiency and what that meant for their pay, and be able to trust the calculations and how we were presenting the information. So definitely, you saw in the video talking about how easy it was to use and how they were able to quickly see their pay, and also to your point, if I maybe just adjust something here, I can drive that higher while maintaining quality. So I think there were just so many added benefits that came out that we hadn't anticipated specifically to the associate experience. And one other thing I'll bring up too is, because we did deploy those tablets to each workstation, we were able to put other types of communication out via those devices. So not only were we using it for the EXENTA solution, but we also were able to leverage that as another communication vehicle just to reach our associates in general. So again, an unintended consequence that actually worked out really well.
That's great. And I guess when you look at the actual, reduction in cost benefit when it comes to payroll processing, from having to, use the old system of scanning and entering and processing payroll that way, as opposed to how you do it today, which is pretty automatic.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So as the slide indicates, we were able to redeploy 3 of our payroll associates that helped us calculate the pay and scan the coupons. So those were redeployed to more value-added tasks so that we were able to continue to scale. So it was fantastic, again, as we're in this period of growth, to be able to really redeploy resources for value add and not spend $60,000 a year on non-value added tasks.
That's great.
Yeah, so I did want to spend a short amount of time here just because I think we're all living through the unexpected situation of the pandemic and having to really pivot and adjust to things that we weren't anticipating and weren't in the cards for 2020. So as Justin mentioned, or I think, or maybe it was Alexis mentioned earlier, we did pivot at the time, at the beginning of the pandemic, to actually manufacture PPE. So we safely dedicated two of our facilities to produce PPE. We also obviously had to meet capacity constraints. Even though we were considered an essential business, we still had to space out and recognize some of the capacity constraints that were imposed. So we did switch over to a 4x4 schedule. So 4 days on, 4 days off. It reduces the number of people in the plant at any one time, and allows us to do some some switching around. So being able to accommodate that schedule. So back to Justin's point earlier, the ability to take something that is completely unplanned and adjust to it, whether it's making a completely different product line that we had no intention of doing, or to go to a completely different work schedule that we had never actually figured out before, and having the system to help us enable that was great, because the last thing you want to do when you're trying to scramble and adapt is to have technology fighting you through the process. And then finally, obviously the absenteeism, right? So we did experience additional absenteeism through the pandemic, and the good news is we were able through the system to be able to see that and know that we might have to move people around and accommodate different types of things, or maybe not even run that line right for that day. So I think just a note here is, glad we had Exenta in our corner, because we definitely weren't sure what the pandemic was going to bring, but it definitely brought challenges every other week, probably like it did for most of you.
Yeah, I would imagine so. It's interesting you say that, because of course we had our own challenges and solutions. We have created a completely touch-free system, and it wasn't even because of COVID. It was just by chance. But in the end, companies are able to do everything completely touchless, from the point of clocking in, scanning production. They could scan into off standards. They can even clock out. So we've created a clock out only function where all they'd have to do is scan and keep on walking. So this has really helped some companies that needed to go to a completely touch-free environment, especially on the time and attendance side. We even have had companies do very creative things with the tablet, like they implemented, one of our customers implemented this in a cafeteria environment, where they actually use the tablet in conjunction with ERP to be able to have operators scan and order and pay for their food. So this was just another way to be able to go completely touchless and using our shop floor technology to be able to drive that.
I love that.
And, just a little bit about us as a company. During COVID, this has been very interesting times, and we have actually been able to bring 14 plants live, completely remote, without ever stepping foot into a factory. We've got, we estimate that we save our customers $800 million annually. We have over 47,000 users on the system today. We're in 9 industries, 14 countries and counting, and an average ROI of just over 5 months. Of course, shop floor control isn't our only area of expertise. We have, seasonal planning and advanced planning and scheduling. It allows companies to be able to schedule not just, next week or next month, but, next quarter, next season, or even next year. And it's all based on, actual resources, the employees, what their efficiencies are, and how many actual, production minutes you have based on that. So it certainly simplifies the planning and scheduling end of production. Machine maintenance. So think of everything that's great about shop floor control for maintenance and for mechanics. So tracking maintenance and mechanics time, how much time it takes for them to respond, how much time it takes for them to repair a problem. Also tracking, machine downtime, tracking parts usage, routine maintenance, and scheduling routine maintenance. So essentially maintenance staff can literally just pick up their phone and they can see a list of everything that they need to work on. And as they work on it, it creates automatic work orders and completes those work orders for them. So it completely automates the whole area of maintenance and tracking maintenance staff and machines, for companies. And then 3PM, which is a fantastic tool for companies that use contract manufacturers. Imagine just putting a tablet or two in a plant that you don't own or manage, and having them with the ability to scan the work that they're doing for you in and out of different areas, and you get real-time feedback. And let's say you have a company that doesn't want to, put your tablets in place. They can literally just use any computer with a web browser and do the same thing, move the work through different areas, and you get instant feedback.
Katrina?
Thanks, Justin. I'm looking forward to checking out those new features.
Absolutely.
Don't tell anyone. So thank you so much for the opportunity to share my experience with EXENTA with you all today. I did want to do a quick shameless plug for Carhartt Company Gear. This is our B2B business unit that does head-to-toe uniform and workwear types of programs. Here are some of the industries that we serve, obviously including but not limited to those, and of course still having the Carhartt brand, the Carhartt quality and the Carhartt durability that we all know and love. So you can check us out at carharttcompanygear.carhartt.com, and we would love to help you out.
Thank you, Katrina and Justin. I think now we're ready for some questions, Per. This is Per Bringle. He is Director of Professional Services for Shopfloor at EXENTA.
Yes, I think I have a few questions that's coming in here. I think let's start with this one. How long, and I think this is both for Katrina and for Justin. Katrina, and specifically in Carhartt's case, but then Justin as well in general. How long did it take for you to implement the Shopfloor system at Carhartt, and in general terms, how long does it take an implementation process?
So at Carhartt, it was a pretty quick process. I think we started, if anything, it was on our side because we like to change priority quite a bit, but I think it was about 6 to 9 months. Justin, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think that's about how long it was to do everything in Mexico, right? Yeah. We actually have had, it goes across the full scope. We had a customer once sign an order on September 1st, and they had a requirement to have it up and running by September 9th. And we were able to meet that. And then we have other customers who, take several weeks or several months. And of course, size matters, so if you're implementing 100 operators on the system versus implementing several thousand, of course, you're going to take a different approach.
Yeah, that's a great point. Just for context, we had 2,500 operators. And a lot of times the challenge on our side was just the data and making sure that we decided to do a pilot to reduce the risk. So we did have a longer burn-in than probably most people typically would see. Yeah, we're very conservative.
Actually, many companies, especially that are going through the incentive pay swap, will take a couple months because they also have to do a comparison between their existing incentive pay and the new incentive pay and make sure that the numbers are accurate and correct.
And that's a good, I think, comment there, because that leads me into another question that just came in here. In regards to incentive pay, is your incentive pay based on piece rate?
Yeah. Yep, piece rate. Yeah, we're right now we have a piece rate payroll. It's a progressive bundle system. We are looking to do some more lean and modular type of manufacturing where we might start to do groups. But for the most part, it is incentive piece rate.
Thank you. There's another one. What software is used to calculating the standard allowed minutes?
Yeah, so we use GSD, General Sewing Data. We've had them for several years. Obviously, we have engineering staff that does the time studies, and then we do store our overall bill of labors within Exenta.
Okay.
I guess that just the question back to Justin then as well. How are we incorporating any of that into Shopfloor integration and so forth?
Well, I actually don't know if you guys are integrated? Do you send that data automatically to Shopfloor? Because you can, of course.
Yeah, I think we do at the bill of labor, but not when we're setting the standards originally.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. And we have some great tools for importing that data, right down to literally just uploading an Excel file with rates. So
yeah.
Make it pretty easy on customers that need to update their rates.
Yeah, so we're loading the SAMs when it comes to associating it with a plant and a product. But when we set the original standard, that's when, you know, we have a global type of standard that we set.
Right. And also, just as a side note, when you guys do decide to start going to modular or lean, you know, we have quite a bit of expertise in-house for that. And our software was designed around lean and modular manufacturing.
Fantastic.
So speaking about integration, here's another question. If Exenta is a standalone system that has the ability to connect to existing ERP or MRP systems?
Yep. So we have it integrated with our SAP solution. So we issue the production from our ERP down to Exenta. We get confirmations back from Exenta related to WIP tracking milestones. So that's integrated. And then of course, it's also integrated with our gross to net payroll solution where we actually cut our checks.
If I could interject, Per, I see that we have questions coming in through chat and some coming in through Q&A, and I'm not sure if you've seen the ones in Q&A.
I see that now. I glance at the Q&A as well.
Okay.
I do see one question that I think is a pretty good question just on the chat, which was how long has Carhartt been using the system and how long did it take approximately to see the ROI?
Yeah, so I'm terrible with time, so I probably should have prepared this answer, but I think we're a couple years in, if not 18 months to 24. But we, as Justin mentioned, we were bringing up a line per week once we started to parallel track the existing system with Exenta. So it was pretty quick once we got it underway. And you know, I think our partnership's a couple years old, right, Justin?
Yeah.
Then there, I saw the Q&A now, Alexis. There a question about Carhartt. Do you own all 7 plants and where are they located?
Yes, we do. So we are in Camden, Tennessee, Irvine, Kentucky. We are in Hanson, Kentucky. That's our distribution center. We are in Durango, Mexico. We have a sewing facility and a finishing center. And we are also in Panama, Mexico.
Okay. Next question was, I know you touched on that earlier. I think maybe Justin can elaborate a little bit on this, possibly. If EXENTA can work with teams, groups, or does it have to be used at every individual machine and workstation?
No, it's fully flexible. So it can be individual, it can be teams, it can be a mixture of teams and individual. You can even have multiple tablets within a team. And you can outline each operation within that team. And then we have additional flexibility with that as well. So we can pay group incentives, we can pay individual incentives, and a combination, of course, of the two.
Okay. One question directed specifically to Katrina. What business visualization software do you use for KPI and production data that you display instead of whiteboards as the data in real time?
Yeah, so a lot of the operational reports come directly out of EXENTA. We do use Power BI for some of the data that we pull from multiple systems then join together. So we, depending on what the application and use case is, but a lot of EXENTA has some great visualizations to use just within the tool itself.
Okay. Technical question, is EXENTA a SQL-based system?
Yes.
Let's see. How did you coordinate training on the shop floor system with your production employees? I guess that's talking a little bit about how the actual implementation process works and how you spread the knowledge within the organization.
Yeah, again, the solution is very intuitive. So there wasn't a ton of training that we needed to do, but because we took one line at a time, it was very immersive, all hands on deck. So the production supervisor, we would walk them through the process first so that we were completely aligned on how that was going to go. Then we would train the associates. So we had, from a Carhartt IT perspective, had folks feet on the ground during those pilot phases to actually, help them through the process, but it was very little training.
Okay. We are a small company with 35 to 40 operators. Is this solution financially viable at this scale?
Well, I can answer that pretty easily. I think our smallest customer has 12 operators and our largest has over 5,000. So it's completely scalable. And, for smaller customers, you don't really even need a server. You can just have a workstation that's dedicated to shop floor.
Thank you. And then there is, I think we're getting, unless more is coming in, there is one here. Were there human errors in selecting operations on the tablets? I guess that's towards how the operators adapt to selecting the right information.
There's very little they have to do. Once the master data is set up, they're scanning a code. So, the chances of the operator themselves creating a data integrity issue is very low.
And we also actually have safeguards in place to protect against that. So you can actually make it so that when an operator scans, they can only see the operation that they're supposed to be working on. So they don't have to actually select an operation. They just scan and work and scan and work.
And one more, then that brings me to another question regarding the labels and scanning. Is there a lot of printing of labels, and how is that managed? Like, how do you manage printing labels in the process?
Yeah, it's very simple. I mean, we have other applications that require labels. So we're bringing care labels, content labels, QR codes into the line. So we have a very robust process when the production gets issued to the floor, that those get pre-printed basically and provided to the sew line.
Yeah, and just to throw one thing out there, all of the printing is done from within shop floor. So you don't need like an outside piece of software or anything like that. All the QR codes, if you're using QR codes, are generated in Shopfloor, and you can print, of course, to anything that you could print from a computer or a tablet. So as long as you have a network printer, then you can print to that. Many of our customers have custom labels set up that are specific for their bundle tickets or for their machine IDs or different things like that. And you can have a custom label that matches that for whatever purpose. So whether you're printing like machine labels, employee badges, or your bundle tickets. And you're not just limited to Eton's data. Like you can actually, to Shopfloor's data, you can actually access other systems. So like if you wanted to pull data from other manufacturing systems or from your ERP, logos, anything like that, it's very easy to put that in there.
Are we about at the end, Per?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're getting towards the end here. And if I apologize if we missed any of these questions because they started to pop up really quick here towards the end. But I think we've covered most of them. So yeah, I think we're good.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, everyone. I think we're going to wrap up. Before we do, I would like to, let everyone know that in addition to a great Shopfloor product, EXENTA is actually, we're proud to be the most modern end-to-end supply chain solution for the apparel and sewn goods industry, starting with our PLM REVO design solution and going all the way through to ERP. We have a solution to meet your needs, and please feel free to learn more about us. And I'd like to thank Katrina and Carhartt for their partnership today, and Rick and NAUMD for allowing us to present today. To learn more about Carhartt Company Gear, please visit companygear.carhartt.com. And to learn more about EXENTA solutions, visit exentago.com. Thank you all.
Love it. Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. I learned a lot about the technology that's getting pushed down now to the operator level. And there's so much more detail, to how all of this works now. And I really appreciate you taking the time to come and present to us today. Thank you so much, everyone.
Fantastic. Thank you all.
Thanks.